Welcome back to the brewing class. On the last episode, we talked about everything we need to prepare for brew day. And today, we're going to talk about the brew day itself. As I had just done a brew day myself, I brewed a New England IPA, my 6th home brew here in Spain, my little apartment I'm living in. I will kind of walk you through the process and what I did and what I needed to have ready and know before I brew beer and while I'm brewing beer. So, I like to start, some people, it depends on you. You want to start early in the morning so you finish early, cool. You want to start later in the afternoon, finish at night, fine. But I do got to warn you, if you start drinking beer, right, like you brew beer, let's say you start the strike water at noon, and you have your first beer at noon, you're going to be pretty tired by 8 o'clock, so just be aware of that. If you brew in the morning, and you want beer in the morning, you're a champion. If you brew in the morning, you might not want to have beer until you're heating up the kettle or even when you're cooling the wort, something like that. Unless you're a champion, and that's it. I like to start around 10:30, 11 if I have my way. But normally I brew on Sundays and I bottle beer before that, and I'm pretty tired towards the end of the brew. But today I didn't bottle, so it was just a brew. It's much more simple. But I got a bottle. I got 2 batches to bottle now. It's going to be a little bitch later, but that's the way it goes. So I have all my ingredients already. I have the next 4 batches ingredients worth planned out. Today I did New England IPA. I did 6 kilograms of Pilsner malt. I did 1 kilogram of flaked wheat. I did only 0.1 kilograms of flaked oats because I didn't have very much. I didn't want to use that much anyways, and after looking at the original gravity sample, it's great actually. And I used 0.5 kilogram of carapils, and that was it. I was going to use maybe 0.25 kilograms of biscuit malt, but I didn't want to darken the color, so I didn't use it. I tasted the OG, the original gravity sample, and it tasted pretty good too. I'm excited about this one. I added no hops for the whole boil for 60 minutes, and on the last, during the whirlpool, I added 50 grams of Nelson Sauvin as well as 50 grams of Yukonat. And I'll dry hop on day 3 for my New England IPA to increase the haze factor with another 50 grams of Nelson and another 50 grams of Yukonat. And on day 8 or day 10, depending on how the fermentation goes, right as it's ending, I'll add about 60 to 75 grams of Cascade pellets. If I had whole hops, I would use whole hops, but I don't. And my yeast is WLP067. Coastal Haze White Labs yeast. Never used it before, but I'm pretty excited. I gotta pitch my yeast here soon. It's cool. My wort is cooling right now in my ice bath. Okay, so you have all your ingredients ready to go. Your malt's milled. You have your strike water. Ideally, it's good water, super soft water, either reverse osmosis or store-bought water that you know has low mineral counts. With that said, you can then add gypsum, calcium chloride, baking soda, and or Epsom salt if you choose to. I always add a little dash calcium chloride as well as gypsum. Baking soda is usually more important for darker beers, as a darker malt will drop the pH. Baking soda will bring it back up. But so you have your water ready to go. You have your malt crushed already. That's all you need for the very beginning, okay? You have all your equipment clean, ready to go. If you have a hot liquor tank, start heating that up. That's the first thing you do. Heat your hot liquor tank up, your strike water. You want to get it to about 168 degrees Fahrenheit, 165 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on the drop of temperature when you add the malt to the hot water in your mash tun. The cool malt will always drop that temperature by about 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit usually 10 degrees. That's a good estimate. So let's say you're shooting for 152 mash. You want to have maybe 160 to 165 Fahrenheit strike water. And then you make your mash and you let it sit for 1 hour. Typically your mash will be on average 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Higher temperatures, more body. Lower temperatures, less body, more fermentable sugars, a little bit more alcohol even. You let it sit for 1 hour, and then you open your valve on the bottom, and hopefully you don't have a stuck sparge, right? That's the bitch right there. And so you don't have a stuck sparge. and you let it flow into an open container. You either have it use a tube or let it go. Some people say oxygenation at this point is not good. Others say it's fine. I've done both and they both turn out fine. It's personal preference there in my eyes. Most professional breweries has closed transfers, so as that's the way they're built. And after the mash, you'll then go, and if you only have one kettle, one heating element like I do, this electric kettle here, I had to get I dropped the wort into a different extra fermenter I had, and then right after all the liquid's gone from this, I had to go clean the grain out, which is a bitch to do it in the middle of the brew, but that's the way it is. You clean it, you clean the kettle, and then you can pour the wort back into the kettle to bring up to boil. And then once it starts hitting boil, that's when you set your timer for 60 minutes, at least 15 minutes, at most usually 90 minutes. And you let it boil, gentle rolling boil for about 60 minutes, that's what I do. And if you're doing New England IPA, add the hops at the end of the boil, last 60 minutes, the last minute during the whirlpool. If you're doing something super bitter, you can add some hops in the beginning, like the first 15 minutes, first 30 minutes. But the more late you add your hops, the more aroma you get, and you don't get as much bitterness. For New England IPA, you don't need too much bitterness, so you just add a decent amount to a lot of hops at the end. And then you dry hop it during primary fermentation, day 3 to day 5 typically. And then if you want double dry hopped, add it at the end of primary fermentation, day 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 12. You have to watch the fermentation and know as you go. And after your boil, you get rid of the wort and you put it into your fermenter and you cool it. If you have a wort chiller, put the wort chiller in the last 15 minutes of the boil so it sanitizes the wort chiller. And then once the hour is gone, you turn the wort chiller on, turn the kettle off, and for about 30 to 45 minutes, you let the cold water run through it. Sadly, you have to waste that water, or you can collect it if you are sustainable enough. If you have an ice bath like I do, you put the fermenter in the ice bath or the kettle in the ice bath, and you let it sit for 3 to 4 hours as it cools down to fermentation temperature. At that point, you put your sanitized yeast container, open it, everything's sanitized at this point, right? And you put the yeast in and you put it in a dark, cool place where no light gets in, and it can maintain roughly the same temperature, about 70 degrees Fahrenheit for an ale yeast, as long as possible. And during that whole time, during the whole brew process, it may take 6 to 8 hours, 5 hours, usually at least 4 hours if you're doing extract. And I like to drink, that's about it. So I'll start drinking during the mash usually. This is my 4th beer. Not crazy for 4 or 5 hours, right? Less than a beer an hour, that's not too much. Sometimes I'll smoke, but today, no, I didn't have any. That's just the way it goes. So be aware of that. I did eat. My girlfriend had luckily made some awesome spaghetti. Always keep that stomach full if you're drinking. I've been drinking water. I've had at least a liter of water today. It's like half a gallon. Not too much, but it's a good amount. I'm pretty tired, I guess. Long day. But that's your average brew day. And soon I'm going to pitch my yeast here and put it away, and then I'll shower and get ready for the next day. So if you guys enjoyed that message, feel free to leave a comment on the bottom. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you really enjoy it. I always enjoy talking to you guys. I'm glad to be back. So once again, my name is Ty Stevenson, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.